Welcome to the Liberty Talks podcast with Michael Anderson and John Douglas. Today we have special guest Pop Culture Junkie here to honor the passing of Stan Lee.
We have to find a way to talk and have dialogue and be tolerant between other views.
You have to have open dialogue, and that's where free speech is so important.
Consent's a very important thing, and today in the Me Too movement, it's been very important because I think it's really opened up a lot of eyes.
I think we should get away from this hookup culture and get back to relationships, because when you have a relationship, you have that communication, you have that connection.
If you committed sexual assault, doesn't matter when it was, you should be held accountable for that. However, we have to make sure that we actually make sure they committed sexual assault, and we have to make sure that all allegations are verified.
So put in these programs thinking that it'll help everyone, but what they forget is that the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
And I think that's what this whole movement is all about anyways, is trying to be open to ideas.
So, Pop Culture Junkie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I had to pull a few strings for some of you that may know Pop Culture Junkie or may not know. You need to check him out. He's on YouTube at youtube.com/popculturejunkie. You could also follow him on various other sites as well. Getting back to the topic we were talking about, though, was honoring the late and great Stan Lee. I think you had a couple of words to say about him.
About Stan the Man Lee, yes. I mean, everyone knows who he is. He's an icon, and he's left behind possibly the greatest legacy that any person could ever hope to achieve. I mean, you just look at whether you're a fan of his work with the comics or the movies or the TV shows or video games or action figures. I mean, it's insane the legacy he's left behind. The man lived to, 95 years old?
Yes.
I mean, right there alone, who can say they lived to 95 years old? Not everyone. So, great accomplishment there. Let's also add to the fact you have the creations of so many iconic superhero and supervillain characters that inspired millions and will continue to inspire millions. Okay? How many of us grew up reading the comics? Now we got to see movies in the last 10 years that we never thought we're going to see. We never thought we'd see, good versions of live-action Spider-Man and X-Men, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers. I mean, the whole universe is insane. And also on top of that, just if you never had the chance to meet Stan Lee, you missed out. I got to meet Stan Lee in 2014. He was here at Comicpalooza here in Houston. And the funny thing is, I found out about the Comicpalooza convention. Didn't know anything about this convention. Apparently it's been going on for years, and I didn't know anything about it. And a friend of mine at my job at the time let me know there were some wrestlers that were going to be there. And I'm a big wrestling fan, of course. And that was the only reason I was going. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go meet wrestlers. So I let a friend of mine know, a friend of ours actually, that I'm going up there. And he's like, hey, Stan Lee's going to be there. Can you take one of my comic books up there to get autographed? I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. So I go up there. I stood in line for 2 hours. 2 hours of just standing in line waiting for Stan Lee to show up. Then I wait for another hour to get through the line. I get to the front. I don't even have a comic with me. So I had to buy a comic right there on the spot that they did have a stack available. So I just buy a comic right there. I stand up there. I stand there another 20, 30 minutes because right after I'm getting up there, they have to go take him to take photos of people. But the entire time in line, whenever he would come back to the table and sign autographs, you want to talk about the happiest person on earth. I mean, genuinely kind and is so happy to do anything he could for his fans. You could really tell he enjoyed every moment of this. And I've seen other celebrities, stars, whatever you want to label them, and you can tell I'm just here. Like, I'm here for 2 hours, and I'm out. You can tell they're just here. Okay, they paid me for 2 hours. I'm out. Bye. He would have stayed there all day long if they had asked him to, probably. He seemed genuinely happy and loved his fans. I get up to the counter, and he comes back to sign comics and shook my hand and whatnot. I actually have a little video I snuck where I took a little video of that. I think I showed it to you.
I think so.
And, he seemed like happy as can be. So, yeah, he was genuinely nice, and I'm glad, strange way of happening to where I can say I at least got to meet the man. But, yeah, I mean, he created some of the most iconic characters ever that you can segue into all kinds of people, whether it's, singers, artists, other TV stars and celebrities. They all have inspiration from him.
Going back to how you were saying how nice a person Stan Lee was, it seems that's very true, because I was watching the Isaiah Factor this past week and last week when the passing happened, and it seemed like a lot of comic book fans that have met him said the same thing. He's always so happy and so nice. But so who are some of those amazing, iconic superheroes and supervillains that we were talking about?
So, if you've been living under a rock for the last 10 years and haven't made it to the Cinemaplex lately, you may not have known about these iconic characters that we're talking about. So, let me do a rundown. Ant-Man, Black Widow, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, She-Hulk, Spider-Man, Groot, X-Men, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, the list goes on. And that's just a handful of characters. There's literally over 300 plus characters that Stan Lee is responsible for creating. Now, yes, he did partner up with other artists like Kirby, of course. He partnered up with on a lot of these. But if you think about it, whether it was a character like Uncle Ben or Spider-Man, he created those as well. And so there's characters all throughout the universe of Marvel that may not all wear masks and do superpower hero things, whatever. But he created all these characters that we know and love, and in one way or another, they all inspired somebody, and they're going to inspire people for generations, not just the ones that are around now. We're talking centuries from now. They're going to remember Stan Lee as the one that created all these characters. And you think about it, like, Spider-Man is inspirational in a lot of ways for being the dorky kid that, was getting picked on, but now he's able to use this power for good, even though he could do it for other things, But where does he learn that? He learns that from his Uncle Ben, where it's, hey, with great power comes great responsibility. That's a powerful line that any parent should definitely share with their child. That's something you definitely raise with.
I remember just after watching the first iconic Spider-Man movie came out, that was something my dad really installed in me as a child, was that great power comes with great responsibility. You think that it's and it's not even that you think, these are just comic books, they're superheroes. But when it comes to Marvel, there's a lot of times there's this underlying message, like you said with Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sure the X-Men were created based upon the civil rights movement and stuff like that. So Stan Lee really brought this segment to comics where they made them more personal and more relatable to your average human being, your average person.
Exactly, and that shows in the characters. So, and we were talking about this earlier, where he made your superheroes more relatable because he made the superheroes dealing with things that you and I deal with today. And you're like, wait, I deal with that, but I don't have the same powers that Doctor Strange does, or that I don't have the billions that Iron Man does. But he still has the same problems with chicks and bills and everything else. And you're like, yeah, I can relate to that. Whereas, you look back at the early comics, and I'm sure there's still superheroes nowadays written like this, but you look at, Superman was portrayed as the unbeatable, invincible, superhero. Nothing can hurt him. And he's just, kind of a... what's the word I'm looking for? He's basically untouchable. He can't be hurt, and that's all you see, though. You see him fight the villain, save the day. That's it. But afterwards, do we see Superman go back to the Fortress of Solitude, struggle with, washing his tights? Do we see him struggling with, hey, my fridge broke, I need to fix this? No. But in the Marvel comics, you would see things like that at times, where you would see Wolverine dealing with something that you would think, all he's got to worry about is, getting out the claws and fighting Magneto, something like that. No, they dealt with stuff that we deal with every day, and so it was more relatable. You gave your superheroes more human characteristics that you didn't see with other superheroes at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, you and I were talking a little bit earlier before the podcast. We were talking about the new Daredevil series on Netflix, and you were saying, oh, look, I love watching this because it was the first or second season where he's kicking people's ass, but at the end he's like, you
Yeah.
can really see that he's had that wear and tear where Batman or Superman, they just kick ass and they're like, okay, I'm Batman, and it's just done.
Exactly. You see, like, early Batman, like, even the early, like, 66 Batman, you see the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and in comics it shows the same where, yeah, they show up, they fight the bad guy, they win, and then they're like, okay, everything's all good. It's like, you just got beaten and destroyed by, 20 different bad guys. You beat them anyways in the end. Shouldn't you show a little wear and tear on you? Didn't they get a few lucky hits in at least? And yeah, like Daredevil, the Netflix series is just amazing. I love that show. And the first or second episode, there's that fight in the hallway where it looks like they just set a camera down at the end of the hallway, hit record, and they're like, okay, action. And he is going into rooms on opposite sides of the hall, back and forth, punching and kicking and beating the crap out of these guys. But every time he's coming out of the room, he's like, catch my breath, okay? And the whole time he's trying to catch his breath, someone's already punching and hitting on him. And he's like, he's blocking, hitting more. And you see at the same time, every time he comes back into camera view, he's got a little more blood on his mouth or something, is hurting. And he's feeling the pain, actually. And it makes it, again, something relatable. Because if you or I tried to fight off 5 or 6 guys, no matter how many we could take to begin with, eventually we're going to be like, hold on. We pop this rib back in. Okay. Round 3. Let's go. Something. And I love it. It makes it so much more enjoyable and realistic, and yeah, it makes it more grounded.
I think the Fantastic Four is a great comic and a great story to talk about this because it's very relatable in the way that these heroes have everyday problems. I mean, especially the Fantastic Four, almost more than any other Marvel hero, I think, because you even see it in the comics, the movies. I mean, it's issues within the family, issues between close friends, the thing. The thing. I mean, that having to deal with, you could say various different things, maybe body image or like self-appearance, whatever. But that in itself is so relatable and something different from the mainstream in comics.
Absolutely. I mean, to continue on with what you're saying, like, I look at the X-Men. X-Men is something that I could relate to growing up. Okay, so for the first 13 years of my life, really, my family moved continuously all over U.S. We were living in all different cities, states, and whatnot. And what do kids in school love to do? They love to pick on the new kid. And so I get to be the new kid about 20 times before I was 13.
You were the original Peter Parker.
Yeah. And yeah, I got picked on and bullied on immediately whenever I was a kid. Not because necessarily of how I looked or dressed, okay, which I was no fashion statement in any mind. So yeah, it was probably the way I dressed. But yeah, I got picked on all the time because I'm the new guy. You're going to pick on the new guy when they show up. And so I got to go through that all the time. But it's like, yeah, I can relate to these things where if I had these superpowers, would I want to do good with them or do bad with them? That's your choice. Again, great power comes great responsibility. And the characters that we watch and read about in the comics taught you that. Like, hey, the X-Men were basically, being prejudiced against.
Yeah.
Because, hey, you're a freak. You're different.
Or discriminated.
Discriminated, thank you. Yeah. You're, same thing with the same, as you mentioned about the civil rights. Hey, you're going to have this against you because of the look of you, the color of your skin and whatnot. But X-Men, you're like, hey, you're a freak because of this or this. And there were people that I knew throughout school that always felt like that. Like, hey, they say I'm this and this. I'm not the preppy cheerleader. I'm not the, quarterback of the football team. I'm not this, I'm not homecoming queen, whatever. And you're like, yeah, but that's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be weird. It's fun to be weird. I've had a lot more fun being weird, I think.
What's interesting is I think maybe, and not even Stan Lee, but it's like being a geek or a nerd now is a lot different than it was back in the day. It's almost cool now to be a geek.
It is. I mean, here, I'll do a comparison real quick. So something that not everyone out there may know, and I didn't know this until I really did some research myself. So Stan Lee is the icon that we just lost last week, but a lot of people don't know that Stan Lee was not his real name. He was born Stanley Lieber. That was Stan Lee's real name. And whenever he started in the comic industry, he started from the ground up. He started as a ink filler, because this is back when they still dipped their pens in ink and whatnot. And he would fetch coffee for the people that worked there. He would do that. So he literally worked his way up. And whenever he got assigned to actually begin working on comics, he didn't want to have his real name affiliated with that, because at the time there was still this stigma that, oh wait, you're connected with comics? Oh, that's kiddie stuff. And he wanted to one day be an actual author. He wanted to write the Great American Novel one day, but he did not want to have that little bit of his history connected to that, to where he was basically afraid, like, oh, if I publish a very serious novel, they're going to be like, but you're the comic guy. That's, they're not going to take you seriously then. And I can relate to that, because as many of you know, listening, I've been a diehard wrestling fan for well over 30 years. And as many of you out there that are wrestling fans yourself, if you grew up at the time period I did, you know as well. People would, keep that a secret, keep it quiet. I'd share with some people at schools and whatnot. They'd be like, oh, what do you like doing? You like baseball, football? I'm like, I love wrestling. They're like, ugh, you like wrestling? It's fake, that? Like, I don't care. I love it anyways. It's fun. And, yeah, so a lot of people I couldn't really talk about wrestling with, because you had that stigma. And people had that same thing with comics back in his time. So I thought that was interesting that the icon himself still as well had to deal with that, and I can relate to that.
And we'll be right back on Liberty Talks Podcast with special guest Pop Culture Junkie.
You're listening to Liberty Talks Podcast with Michael Anderson and John Douglas. Follow us on Twitter at Michael4 Freedom and at Real John Douglas. Subscribe and listen to the show on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Liberty Talks Podcast is brought to you by all of our musician contributors and musical producers, including Shamari and Jarrell Beats.
So, Pop, tell me a little bit about yourself, your childhood, some of your favorite shows, and some of your favorite pop culture icons.
So I think I definitely try to embody the name Pop Culture Junkie by being just a lifelong fan of everything involved, whether it's comics and movies, TV shows, everything. Growing up, I watched, of course, lots of different shows and movies. Big fan of all types of pop culture icons like Star Wars and Transformers and GoBots, all kinds of crazy. Well, GoBots not so much icon, but yeah, like about myself, growing up, I was a typical '80s kid. Loved playing outside, riding my bike, but really, I loved video games, movies, and comics. Loved going to the movies whenever possible. Huge fan of course, like I said, Star Wars, Turtles, Transformers, those things. Really, yeah, growing up, it was all about all those types of fun things that I enjoyed doing. Later on, it went into more things, but I just never grew out of the love of those early, childhood moments. I guess really it was getting to read comics and watch movies and such. So that's kind of sums up my childhood, I guess. It was a lot of that. But yeah, I started the YouTube channel Pop Culture Junkie about almost 4 years now. It's been. And I'm having a blast with it. I've met a lot of people. I've gotten to make a lot of friends that I never would have met otherwise, that live all over the country and even across the ocean and other parts of the world. So it's been really great getting to know a lot of close people that I've never even thought about, the possibility of knowing. It's amazing the world we live in nowadays. We can do that.
Yeah, it's great, and that's one of the reasons why we're together. We're able to come together. Obviously, this is usually more of a political talk show, but we're diving into some pop culture, and I appreciate you coming on and having the courage to come on the program and just being with us today.
Oh, definitely happy to be here.
So, what exactly made you start Pop Culture Junkie? What's the story behind it?
The story, well, basically, was it 2014? My amazing, supportive, gorgeous, and happily devoted wife, Mrs. PCJ, she found the subscription box services, and we found them on like Facebook or something like that. and she thought, oh, this would be kind of a cool idea to give me a subscription for my birthday, for Christmas, because my birthday is actually this coming Saturday. It's every November 24th. And then...
Happy early birthday.
Thank you so much. And then, of course, 1 month later is Christmas. So she decided to get me a couple of month subscriptions to a couple of different subscription boxes. And in the meantime, I would get on YouTube and watch other people's unboxings, because I just started to learn about the whole wild and crazy world of unboxing videos. And so I started watching people's videos primarily because I wanted to see what kind of items come in these boxes, and I wanted to find other boxes besides the ones that she had found. And as I'm watching these unboxing videos, it seemed most of the time people that were doing these videos were more focused on getting their face plastered on the camera rather than showing us exactly what was in the boxes. And I would show these to my wife and say, this is getting annoying. I want to see the items. And then at the same time, the people that were doing reviews seemed like they didn't have a clue about what they were talking about. And I don't mean that they just didn't have as much knowledge as somebody like myself that's, watched countless repeats of movies and TV shows and such. It seemed like they were talking about simple items and then not even knowing what they were coming from. Like, oh, this is something from Star Wars, something from Lord of the Rings, something from Married Children, just all kinds of different shows and movies. And they would literally be like, guys, I have no idea what this is. I don't know what it means or what it's connected to, but here's the item. They just kind of flash it in front of the screen and that was it. And after watching so many of these videos, I got frustrated and I got tired of being frustrated. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to put up or shut up. Next year, starting January 2015, I'm going to start doing a video on at least one of the boxes I get and see what happens. And my first actual video I posted on my channel, it's still on there, you can see all the videos, is a wrestling review, which was ironic since I'm a hardcore wrestling fan. I've been a diehard fan since I was 5 years old. And so my first video review was on the 2015 Royal Rumble. I recorded it the next day driving in my car, actually. If you watch the video, I'm just holding my phone in my car while I'm driving around. It's crazy. But yeah, so I get the January nerd block for 2015, and I set up this large giant display and do the video, post it, and it got, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 views at the time, and maybe it's gotten a few more now, but it, just got a decent response. So I started doing the videos every month. I did like maybe 2 or 3, and I would try to find other items I could do them on, such as like trading cards, mystery minis. I started getting into those, and that was dangerous because now I've gotten into doing a weekly episode called Mystery Mini Monday, which I have countless minis now. But really, for the first 6 months, I basically kept it a secret from everybody and didn't tell anyone I was doing these videos, primarily just because I didn't know what was going to come of them. I didn't know if it was going to be anything that would actually be of, significance, if anybody was going to really be wowed by them or what.
You didn't know the reaction you were going to have, right?
Not at all. Not at all. I didn't have a clue. I was like, well, I'll put up a few videos, and at least I can say, look, I'm saying to other channels, I don't like what you're doing. I don't think you're doing it the right way. But at least I'm trying to show that, well, put up or shut up. I took a chance. And at least I can say, hey, look, I did it a different way. And I'm making it priority for me to show the items and that I kind of have at least a little idea of what I'm talking about.
That seems like a really cool and unique story. And for some of my listeners that don't know you, I think it's really interesting. You say everyone just wanted to get their face plastered up, yet you have never put your face out there. People don't know your identity.
No, they don't. I get a lot of people posting comments. Early on, I got a lot of comments from people, and very bizarre ones. I'd get some strange ones. You ever heard of these things called internet trolls? Never heard of those, right? Those,
What's that? I don't know.
They live under a bridge.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Hobos?
Well, actually, they live in their mom's basement on a keyboard. That's about it. But I would get all kinds of comments, and most of them I left on there. I don't really delete people's comments unless you're just really ugly. If you're really distasteful, you get deleted. But most of the comments, I'm like, comment whatever you want. And I would get people commenting going like, oh my gosh, are you like in the witness protection? Was that why you're hiding your face? Are you connected to something? Why are you hiding your face? Why are you so secretive?
PCJ is in the NSA.
I have a couple of friends that were like that I met through the YouTube channel. They're like, hey PCJ, why don't you show your face? And I'm like, I'm just really shy. And they're like, dude, I think you're actually a retired wrestler, and you still want to show your face. I'm like, I wish I'd be buying a lot more boxes if I had that kind of money.
Plot twist.
Yeah. But yeah, so, and like I said, I originally started it because I wanted to show that, like, look, if you're going to do a review, focus on the stuff you're talking about and actually show you know a little bit about it. And I always say that. I say, look, I don't know everything about everything, but I do know a little bit about most things. So, so yeah, I focused more on that. And then at the same time, because I wasn't sure what was going to come of this, and yeah, I was like, I'm a little shy still, even though I've done a lot of crazy wild things in my life that you'd be like, how do you have any shame left? My wife was the very first person I shared that I was doing these videos. For the first 6 months, I didn't say anything to her. I just recorded the video, post it, record a video, post it. And if you watch my early stuff, you can really tell. All I did was hit record and post, nothing else. Now there's a lot more elaborate intros and endings put to the videos. There's editing involved and sound effects and other things that I've been able to learn how to do. And that's the thing. I learned everything on the go, just step by step. And it was about 6 months of doing the videos. In June, I did a subscription box for Loot Crate. And I was pleasantly surprised that it quickly went from a couple hundred views to several thousand views. It blew up, and for me, I'm like, wow, I've only had like 20, 30 views on most videos, maybe 100, and now I'm getting up to 15,000. I'm like, whoa, this went, viral in my opinion. And so I couldn't keep it quiet anymore, and I shared it with my wife. I let her know I was doing videos. I showed her the videos, and she was ecstatic. I mean, she's the most amazing and supportive woman I've ever met in my life, and she was ecstatic. Her first response after watching the first video was, oh my gosh, we got to get you more boxes. I wanted you to do more videos. Even though I was like, no, we can't afford that. But yeah, so that was where, the whole thing started. But I guess really I was at the same time feeling like, hey, if I do these videos and they turn out to not be anything of wow, then at least I can say, oh, I tried, but I don't have to worry about somebody coming up to me on the street going like, oh my gosh, man, I saw your videos. Those were horrible. Like, yeah, whatever.
Well, congratulations on the success you've had. And everyone, go support PCJ. But thank you for the quick rundown. Getting back to the topic we were talking about, though, what are some of your favorite Marvel superheroes? A movie, a comic, a TV show? You just spoke about Daredevil, but what are some of your favorites from the Marvel universe?
So in what was it, 80s, late 80s, early 80s or so is when I first saw this, and it's not my favorite, but it's something to look back on and laugh. So long before Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man, and long before the Incredible Hulk movies with Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo, they had these really, really cheesy live-action Spider-Man and Hulk movies and such. Did you ever see these? You ever heard of them?
So. I don't
Okay,
think so.
They are horrible. But they were available at the video store to rent. And I'm like, there's a Spider-Man movie. A little kid, I'm like, I want to watch Spider-Man. We rented the movie, took it home. Oh my gosh, these are awful. I mean, it's Spider-Man crawling on a wall. It's like worse than Batman 66 TV show. It is horrible. But those are fun memories to look back on. But no, favorite ones, I mean, I still say the original Iron Man is probably still one of the greatest comic book movies, period. Because the opening of that movie was incredible. The way they really put you in a real world. And as soon as that first scene ends where they attack the army convoy and they have Robert Downey Jr. tied up to the chair with the flag behind him and whatnot. It's like he's actually been kidnapped by terrorists and whatnot. It's like, wow, this was like so real and it could really happen. And the way they did the movie was similar to the comics where you're like, this could happen. Like a billionaire could literally go and be like, you know what? I'm going to be Iron Man. I might die and get killed in a minute, but I could still do it if I wanted to. And that's what I liked about the movie. And of course, Robert Downey Jr. stole the show as Tony Stark, but I think the first Captain America as well was an incredible one. And I've liked other Marvel films. I was totally blown away by the original Guardians of the Galaxy because I didn't even know anything about this comic. Never read it when I was a kid. I remember watching the trailers and I was like, yeah, they're kind of trying to be like these other characters that we've seen in the other Marvel films, but is this going to be any good? My wife and I went and saw it. We were just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing since like Star Wars. Like, this was incredible. This was an amazing movie. What about you? What were some of your favorites?
Well, I really like Daredevil. I love the Netflix.
Wait, Daredevil the TV show, or do you like Daredevil the Ben Affleck bomb?
Okay, so in all fairness, I grew up with the Ben Affleck bomb, so I did actually genuinely like that.
Okay.
But I like the TV series a lot better.
Right.
And for those of you that are watching the TV series, you better keep on watching the season 3 because it kind of gives flashbacks to the old Ben Affleck show.
Really?
They have they bring back Bullseye, which essentially is the new Daredevil for people that are watching. And they have a fight scene in the church at the end of the series. So it's very reminiscent of the 2003 Daredevil movie. But I really like Daredevil. I thought it was interesting because I wasn't always the most popular kid, so like I kind of related to Matt Murdock being different and not being your average kid, kind of getting picked on, and but maybe being different, but utilizing your differences to your advantage. I always thought that was really cool. Spider-Man also is a favorite of mine too. Let's get into one final topic for our final segment. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on getting away from the pop culture stuff, but more as you as a content creator and in this whole social media fabric that we're in. I'm not sure if you're aware, but within the last month, there has been a purge of independent voices on social media, mainly Facebook, but you see things such as on YouTube, people getting demonetized, on Twitter, people getting shadow banned, and on Facebook, their pages just getting deleted. So I kind of want to get your opinion on this as a content creator with YouTube. You've had more success than I have, and you've been doing it for a little while. But something that I see is that on YouTube and these other big social media sites is that if we try to talk about something like a controversial issue, our videos will get demonetized. Our videos will get shut down. We'll get shut down. But if Tucker Carlson or Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or anyone else talks about guns or something controversial or, the news, they get, millions and millions of views. They're number one on YouTube. Do you think that you think this is a good move, or do you think that YouTube is kind of straying away from what made YouTube?
I think it definitely strains them away from what they were, because really it was about, at least in my experience, it's always seemed like, okay, you have a voice, say whatever you want to say. Whether or not you are saying something other people want to hear or not, that's not the priority. The priority is you have a outlet to speak, to share whatever your thoughts are, to talk about something you're passionate about, and everyone has their own opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I've always respected that. Whether I agree with whatever you think on this topic or that topic, doesn't matter. I'm sure there's another topic we can agree on, so that's how it is. But I think it's unfortunate the way things go nowadays, where it comes down to basically they're giving a lot of leeway to anyone that says the direction they want things to go in. And I don't think that. I think there always should be somebody that goes the other way, that turns around and confronts things, doesn't just go with the flow, because that's not what our whole history is about. Is everyone is about doing things different, making change, doing things against the grain, and it's about having your opinion and having your voice. And if you continue allowing other voices to go silent, hate to go on a political rant here, but I guess it's the right channel to do that, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's like, if I have a voice and I have something I want to say and speak about, I should be able to do that, because we do have the freedom of speech, obviously, and it kind of goes against that, where people start to say, you know what, I don't like what you're saying, so you can't have this on here. But okay, am I doing anything actually wrong? No, I just don't like it. Oh, okay, there's countless things in this world that I don't like, but I still have to go along with it. But at the same time, I'm not going to do anything in a illegal sense to counter it, I guess you could say. So yeah, I don't agree with it. And like you, I mean, I've had when I started my channel, it took a while till I reached whatever the requirements were to get the monetization. And sadly, earlier this year, I lost my monetization because now they have the thing where you have to have over 1,000 subscribers, which I do. I have like over almost 1,500. Thank you so much, all my subscribers out there. But you have to have like over 4,000 hours, I think, something like that, or of views or watch time in a 12-month period. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how many times people watch the stuff on here, but it's like that's a strange thing because you're really just giving the edge to people that pretty much, like you said, the ones that have a giant network to already support that. So
they already have a platform.
Yeah, they have somewhere to speak. So someone starting out that wants to, say that they, what they think or how they feel about things, they have the sad thing of happening where they get shut down before they even get something going.
Yeah, I mean, getting into like the political and philosophical thing, I mean, at the same time, these are independent businesses. I think businesses can do whatever the hell they want with their business, But I think that they're not being honest when they give us these terms of service, and then they say, oh, well, you violated the terms of service, but they're not clear on it. Now, I don't know if you're aware, if you know who Alex Jones is, or if you're aware of what happened, but 2 months ago, all the social media platforms came together and banned Alex Jones from everything. They just totally kicked him off everything. So now he's just in his own website. I think he still has his Apple app. But after this, a lot of my friends and a lot of people that are more liberal were like, yes, this is good. Alex Jones is a terrible human being. But I said, now that this has happened, this now allows these same social media platforms to ban anyone they want on any basis, just because they don't like what you have to say. And I told him, I said, once you knock one domino down, the rest are coming to fall. What happens? A month later, 800 independent voices get banned from Facebook. I call it libertarian, but they're really independent, anti-establishment. We saw pages such as Police the Police, the Free Thought Project, Anti-Media, things that just have an anti-establishment tint to them, got totally taken off Facebook. So I very much agree. I think that when you have this culture of censorship and trying to make sure that, okay, well, the little guys stay little, and we're going to continue to beef up the big platform pundits, it runs counter to what YouTube was founded for. It was founded for people like me and you starting our own channel, even trying to make a little bit of money off of it. That's something that's really hindered a lot of content creators nowadays. So what do you think the answer is? Do you think that it's to continue to use Facebook, or YouTube and Facebook? Do you think that having conversations like this would help? Do you think maybe someone needs to come out with a new platform?
Well, I think no matter what, everyone should continue doing whatever they're doing as far as like, hey, I'm going to keep, because like me, I'm still going to do my channel. If 2 people watch a video I put out, if 200 people put it out, I'm still happy because it's something I'm doing that I enjoy. I get a lot of joy out of just doing the content itself. And me, myself, when I started this, it wasn't, and still to this day, I'm not in this, quote, for money. If I get money, great. I've always said, hey, if I can get something for it to where I can reinvest and put more content into the channel, that's the whole point of it. And that's what I think the monetization should be for. It's like, hey, I'm getting monetization for views because people enjoy the content, and I can take whatever monetization I get, turn it right back into put it into the channel, whether it's to invest in more subscription boxes or mystery minis or whatever, or just better software to put out better quality content. I think no matter what, people should just do what they enjoy. But as far as silencing people and that such, no, I don't agree with that, and I've never have agreed with censorship in the media, nothing like that at all. I've been a very big protagonist. Is that the right word I'm using?
I think so.
But yeah, I've never agreed with that. I think it especially kind of goes to comparing other countries. Of course, our country is very sensitive when it comes to a lot of things being spoken or said or shown. And I don't know, I just always feel that, if somebody's going to be passionate about something, they have a right to say it. They have a right to share their opinion, and everyone has a right to listen or not listen. That's your choice. So I don't think they should do anything like this as far as banning sites or pages, whatnot, there does come to the whole thing of like, okay, when do we get to the point where it's okay, this is getting extreme? Those get taken into consideration, I guess. But that's my opinion.
Well, I think that's a great way to end the podcast. And what you said, it really makes a lot of sense. Keep doing what you love, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. I mean, just like what happened with Stan Lee. He started from the bottom. He really didn't believe in himself. He changed his name so that way he could go into comic books, but he really wanted to do something else. And look at the man Stan Lee is now.
I mean, we didn't even mention this, but yeah, he wanted to quit. He wanted to quit comics in the late 50s, and he went home, told his wife Joan, who he was married to till the day she passed away, which was just last year, sadly, and told her, "Look, I'm done. I'm out. I don't like the way they're doing comics nowadays. I want out." And she said, "Fine." He says, "But I got to sign one last thing. They want me to create a superhero team to contend against DC's Justice League." And she said, "Well, fine. Write whatever you want to write. If you're leaving, you got nothing to lose. Write what you want to write." And he's like, "Okay, yeah." And then he created the Fantastic Four. And now we're gifted with the entire Marvel universe because of that. So it's incredible how things work out.
Where can people follow you at, so that way we can get you some more subscribers? We get you on YouTube at Pop Culture Junkie. What about Instagram or Twitter?
Oh, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at PopCultureJunk2. And for you wrestling fans, I'm always live tweeting during Wrestling Network special shows and pay-per-views. And then I'm also on Instagram at The Real Pop Culture Junkie. And I'm on Facebook as well as The Pop Culture Junkie.
Well, that was it. Thank you very much, Pop Culture Junkie, for coming into the home studio of Liberty Talks podcast and talking to us about the late and great Stan Lee and a little bit of politics.
Absolutely, man. I had a great time. It was great being on here, and I thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys. You have a wonderful holiday weekend and a wonderful happy Thanksgiving.